say it does. I mean, I predicted a little while ago that this is the way they had to go. They were unhappy. They were never able to. This is the point of the Mueller prosecution, and so they feel that they have outstanding debt with President Donald Trump, and so they were going to have to go after him. By the way, I think that what they were probably looking for, what they probably are looking for, is January 6th related material. I know how it's being described, but I believe the real play is to go after him on January 6th. They want to bring an obstruction charge against him, which is what Mueller wanted to bring against him, and that's the charge that's being leveled against most January 6th defendants. But yes, in a way, I am surprised because it's shocking. Because as you said at the top of the show, this is pretty clear that we're living now in a banana republic. This is clearly third world regime security services stuff. It's a very it's a historic day for America, let's say.
Well, I think this is one of the lowest points for our republic, certainly in my lifetime. I mean, maybe during the Nixon era when things were all coming apart then, but this is about as low as it could get, certainly since then. Now, Russ, some commentators actually think this is all good for democracy. Watch.
And I'm sure we'll hear that this is a Biden witch hunt. But I think it's really important that, independents, Democrats, and hopefully some Republicans will look at the facts and see that this has been a slow road, but it's a road that will hopefully strengthen our American democracy, which has been very fragile these last few years in a post-Trump presidency.
Russ, for what they call a fragile democracy, raiding one of the homes of the former president and likely future opponent of this administration or this president, that's going to make things all hunky-dory?
Yeah, it's sad, Laura. The democracy is not in jeopardy. Their oligarchy is in jeopardy. And the reality is that they are tearing the Band-Aid off in a very distinct and clear way and showing not just the American people that has known this for quite some time as they've been called domestic terrorists for showing up at a school board meeting to protest what's going on in the schools, but they're now telling with clear and convincing evidence to a Republican political class that has been unwilling to fight back against this with the levers that they have. And I think this is a wake-up call for those in Congress to be able to use the tools at their disposal to defund the FBI, to ask the right questions, and to prepare for a church-style commission next year, if given a Republican majority, to dismantle the FBI into 1,000 bits.
Yeah, Lee, over on MSNBC tonight, they were bemoaning this idea of Republicans after this raid saying they're going to really hold the FBI accountable. Like, can you believe they're saying they're going to defund these agencies and they're going to hold hearings? They're actually shocked that Republicans would wield the gavel in an effective way if they get power back in November. They're terrified of that.
Well, I mean, the important thing is that there are Republicans who are active, and hopefully they're gathering evidence now, and hopefully they've woken up to the different issues, because we saw, Laura, you covered this so well, but when Congressman Devin Nunes started on this, he didn't have a lot of support. So what we'd like to see right now is Republicans all on board realize what the issue is. It's a historic day insofar as Americans now understand what we are up against. Our children, our children's children will be looking to how we respond. This is how we are tested. They see it as a campaign of desecration and demoralization that started with Russiagate. It went through Kavanaugh. It went through impeachment. It went through the COVID lockdowns. It went through George Floyd. It's a campaign of demoralization and desecration, trying to dispirit the American people. The important thing, again, is how we respond to this. That's what will be looked at in the future, because as you said, it's not just about Donald J. Trump. It's about the American public, too. It's about the oligarchy, the regime saying, you don't have a choice. You can't do anything about it. We govern your lives. We fill every part of you. That's why we really are a totalitarian regime. We can shape your children's gender. We can do whatever we want. So it's time for all of us, not just Republicans on the Hill. As Russ is always talking about, it's up to the American people to lead. Let in some ways, the Republican officials follow our lead.
Yeah, Russ, this is an intimidation campaign, a vendetta. But I think it's wrong to look at this just as focused on Trump. Trump was the vessel, was the individual who finally pulled back the curtain on the corrupt bipartisan establishment that had driven our middle class into the ground. And they want to take our children from us as well. They want it. He's exactly right what Lee said. The propagandizing against our country that's happening in government schools is part of this whole thing. And Trump was taking it all on. And if he had a second term, he would have really done some damage to what they had done. They're afraid of him coming back. I think this is a clear sign. They know he'll probably be successful in running for president again. I think if they weren't threatened by him, why would they do this? They're clearly threatened by him as a political force.
They wouldn't. And I love talking to people that think that somehow Donald Trump running for president is not going to be a successful political campaign. The left doesn't think that. The left is pulling out every stop because they know that they have no more options when it comes to winning policy debates. All they can do is brute force, and they can only do that if they can spook the Republican Party and somehow being fearful. And now is the time to stand forward and be courageous and say, look, we're not backing down. The American people showing up didn't back down when they're trying to protest against critical race theory. We're not backing down in the same way that President Trump has not backed down. That's what's called for in this moment. And the only question is whether Republican Party leaders are going to step up in Congress.
Yeah, well, the old guard, the old dinosaurs, Lee, who voted for the stupid infrastructure bill, Cassidy and McConnell and all these guys, they came out and they voted for that stupid infrastructure bill, saying that was going to stop the climate change bill. Remember that? I thought we were going to do that tonight. We'll do it tomorrow. But these are the brainiacs that allowed this to happen to the American people. I know they've done some good things on the courts and stuff, and they're not all bad. But on the fight for the people of this country, they've been woefully inadequate. And it's time for them to move on aside and let the real warriors for the democracy of our country and our people step into the breach. Because they're obviously not up to it, or they don't want to do it. I don't know which, but they're not interested in taking up the populist fight for the people of this country. They're just not interested.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's possible to bracket some of the political stuff, the stuff that gets us frustrated and angry, but just realize that we live in a meaningful time. We're getting to fight for our country now. The American people, we've woken up. We understand what's happening. And God willing, our political officials will follow our lead. As Russ has spoken about so well, I love hearing Russ talk about it, how courage is contagious.
Yeah, and when we say fight, we obviously say use every legal means and constitutional means at our disposal. And that means we got to win, and we got to win big. Russ, the IRS now is going to be a part of the new Democrat Party, militia, economic, financial militia against regular people. And yet the senators are coming out today, the Democrats saying, oh, no, don't worry. This is all going to be, to help the people. Watch.
Millions of Americans aren't going to be impacted by that other than getting better service from the IRS, having their telephone answered, getting the questions they need in order to comply with our tax laws. The auditing is going to be focused on those of high income, the large corporations, et cetera. So there's no reason to be fearful. And if you have paid your taxes and if you comply with our laws, you should want to make sure everyone else does that.
Russ, don't worry, be happy that we have a new squadron of IRS agents, almost 90,000.
Yeah, they've never faced an audit, have they? I mean, the reality is that there's analysis out there that say that 90% of this type of funding to the IRS is going to be directed at audits at people less than 200,000. This is going to be directed at the middle class, people who are S corps and have small businesses. They're now going to have to justify to the regime, the same regime that is raiding on a former president representing 75 million Americans. They're going to have to justify and prove their innocence to IRS agents that have all the resources in the world. And that's the reality of what these members are voting on when they come back in town Thursday and Friday to vote on the Senate's package.
Yeah, they are aligning against the people who pay their salaries, the people they're supposed to be working for. They're working against